it put me also in a fix. When I saw the question paper, the first reaction that I had was that what would be the answer to the second part, because I'm not very sure. I had to actually open up the BEAR Act. I had to go and search, find the Representation of People Act, look up section 123 and see that does disproportionate asset actually amount to a corrupt electoral practice or not. Even though I was pretty certain that it does not, but still I had to be 100% sure. And that's why I am saying that this question became moderate to tough because of that reason. So now let's see what the question is. It says discuss the corrupt practices for the purpose of Representation of People Act. So you have to define what corrupt electoral practices are. You have to define section 123. You have to give certain examples of corrupt electoral practices. You have to discuss about section 8A of the Representation of People Act. Possibly because you would have less time or less content to answer in the second part of the question, you can maybe fill some more information about Indira Gandhi's disqualification on the grounds of being held guilty of corrupt electoral practice. You could talk about that this process is very cumbersome in nature. तो थोड़ा बहुत उससे आप हो सकता है कि एग्जामिनर को आप एक इंप्रेशन दे दें that he may out of 10 marks give you let's say 4. Otherwise इस क्वेश्चन में 6 या 7 लाना बहुत मुश्किल है because of the second part. अब second part देखिएगा. Analyze whether increase in assets of legislators and or their associates disproportionate to their known sources of income would constitute undue influence and consequently a corrupt practice. Now try to understand the question first. Answer पे मैं आ जाऊंगा. It is saying that you have to analyze if there is a disproportionate increase in income or source, the assets of any particular representative of people or their associates, let's say someone associated with them, maybe their family members as well, if that happens disproportionate to what their income is, can that be called as exercising undue influence and therefore amount to a corrupt practice in elections? So now in the second part, even if you don't know exactly does this amount to a corrupt electoral practice or not, you can write something in the answer. Again, I am not saying that you should do a complete guesswork. थोड़ा बहुत लिख सकते हैं and maybe on basis of that examiner may give you half a mark or 1 mark extra. तो तभी मेरे को लगता है इस क्वेश्चन के अंदर अगर आप 4.5-5 नंबर भी ले आए 10 में से तो बहुत अच्छी बात है. It's very good. मेरे हिसाब से वो अपर लिमिट है इस क्वेश्चन के अंदर. It was a difficult question. But now see, why am I saying that this is a difficult question? Because when I read the question, I came to know कि भाई ये second part तो मुश्किल है. इसके लिए तो BEAR Act देखना पड़ेगा. अगर मैं एग्जाम हॉल में बैठा होता तो I would have told myself that this is a very difficult second part of the question. Let me not waste a lot of time on this. Let me write something, maybe extract 1.5 mark, whatever I can out of the examiner and move on. Not bother about this. Not that I should be sitting there in the examination hall and thinking कि मैंने पढ़ा क्यों नहीं है. अरे ये पढ़े आप नहीं याद रख सकते थे. आप सेक्शन 123 पूरा याद थोड़े ना रख सकते हैं कि उसमें करप्ट इलेक्टोरल प्रैक्टिस की डेफिनेशन में एग्जैक्टली क्या क्या चीजें होती हैं. यू कांट रिमेंबर दैट. वेगली किसी को दिमाग में रह जाए तो रह जाए. एंड दैट इज वेयर योर प्रिपरेशन कम्स हैंडी. अगर आपकी तैयारी अच्छी होगी, इफ यू हैव कॉन्फिडेंस ओवर योर प्रिपरेशन, व्हाट विल हैपन इन द एग्जाम हॉल? यू विल सी दैट भाई ये क्वेश्चन मुश्किल है. लेट मी ट्राई टू राइट व्हाट आई कैन एंड देन मूव ऑन. यू विल नॉट थिंक कि अरे मेरे को आता नहीं है. This happens to those candidates, those who are not properly prepared, या जो कॉन्फिडेंट नहीं होते अपनी प्रिपरेशन के बारे में. उनको क्या लगता है वहां पे बैठ के कि दूसरे को आता होगा. दूसरे को भी नहीं आता है. दूसरे को, तीसरे को भी नहीं आता है. जब अगर मुझे नहीं आता है तो आप सोच के देखिए ना, जो आदमी एग्जाम दे रहा है आपके साथ वाला, उसको कैसे आता होगा. तो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है यूपीएससी एग्जाम के अंदर भी. ये प्रीलिम्स में भी हम बात करते हैं एंड वी कीप टॉकिंग अबाउट इन मेंस एज वेल. That having faith and trust over your preparation is very important, because when you then encounter such questions, you should not get in any way flustered because of them, because you should think कि मेरे और competitors को भी नहीं आता, so it doesn't matter, so let me just move on, because ultimately it's a relative examination, it's a competitive examination. You don't need to get 60% or 70% or 80%. There is no benchmark which has been set by UPSC in these questions. तो ये समझना बहुत जरूरी है. We will see that in many other questions as well. That अपनी knowledge के ऊपर faith होना अपने प्रिपरेशन पे ट्रस्ट होना बहुत जरूरी है एज फार एज दिस एग्जामिनेशन इज कंसर्न. प्रीलिम्स में बहुत जरूरी है ये, बिकॉज देन यू विल लुक एट अ क्वेश्चन, यू विल से यार मैं तो पढ़ा ही नहीं टॉपिक, आप क्वेश्चन वहीं पे छोड़ दोगे. You will find many questions in prelims, you can write the answer to them with the help of some knowledge, or you can find the answer to those questions with the help of some knowledge that you have if you try to work the answer in the examination. Same we will see here as well, कि थोड़ा बहुत जो इधर उधर का knowledge है, we can use that to write the answer to some of the questions. Anyway, now let's come to the answer for this particular question. See, when it comes to 10 markers, I personally believe that there is no scope for writing long drawn introductions and conclusions. You should come straight to the point because you already have less than 150 words. But in a question like this, where you do not have much of content to write in the second part, you may beat around the bush a bit in the introduction. थोड़ा बहुत आपके पास वो scope रहता है, so that possibly you can give a feeling to the examiner that I have written a comprehensive answer. वैसे देखिए, examiner is not going to be fooled by all of this. Let me tell you that, because उसको second part का आंसर नहीं मिला तो वो नहीं देगा नंबर, पर फिर भी हो सकता है कि शायद आपको वो आधा नंबर एक्स्ट्रा मिल जाए. So anyway, when it comes to question number 1, the kind of introduction which we can provide to the answer here is simply define corrupt electoral practice. So you start from that corrupt electoral practices have been defined in section 123 of ROPA. It basically refers to those practices where a person uses unfair means in order to gain electoral advantage. इसको define कीजिएगा. इसकी कोई definition है नहीं section 123 में, but आप अपनी तरफ से दीजिए. It refers to those situations where a person uses unfair means to gain an unfair advantage in the elections. That is what corrupt electoral practice is. Corrupt electoral practice, right? Now, you would then say that section 8A of ROPA. So मैं point wise बता रहा हूं क्या क्या चीजें होनी चाहिए. Section 8A of ROPA provides that if a person is held guilty of a corrupt electoral practice, then they can be disqualified from contesting the elections or continuing as a member of the parliament or state legislatures. Then you can also explain the process. इसके अंदर आप process भी explain कर सकते हैं थोड़ा बहुत. That first the High Court has to give the order, and then the High Court will issue the order to the Election Commission of India. Election Commission of India will then subsequently pass it on to the President of India, and therefore you can possibly make some kind of a comment also on this, that this is a very long drawn process. Something which we drew from our knowledge of the previous year questions. Then also in this, either after you have explained the process or in the beginning itself, you can also define what is or what are the examples of a corrupt electoral practice in this particular act. Examples of a corrupt electoral practice. So examples of a corrupt electoral practice would be when you are trying to bribe a person for getting their votes in the elections, or when you're trying to use religion, race, caste, etc. in order to ask for votes for yourselves. So the famous Abhiram Singh case is what you can mention about if you want to anyway. Third, you can mention that if any person makes some false statement, deliberately false statement about the character or about an opposition candidate. Okay, so if someone is competing against you, you make some kind of a false statement about their character, etc. and all of those things. Or you try to promote enmity between different sections of the society, or you misuse government machinery for your advantage. For example, you combine your official visit with your election campaign. You are supposed to conduct a rally somewhere and then you go and merge it with your official visit that is supposed to happen to some district or to some state, etc., whatever, for whatever purpose. So this you can declare as, or you can explain, are some of the examples of corrupt electoral practice. अब second part of the question आता है. तो इसको again, if you see, even if I write this much content, I would have already written around 80 to 100 वर्ड्स, 80 से 100 वर्ड तो यही हो गया इसी को एक्सप्लेन करते करते ही, ठीक है. सो अब ज्यादा कुछ को बचा नहीं है लिखने का. सो गुड पार्ट इज दैट. नाउ द नेक्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चन इज दैट, अब उस आप ना देखिए, अब आपको प्रॉब्लम एग्जैक्ट आंसर तो नहीं पता है, बट एटलीस्ट यू कैन एक्सप्लेन द प्रॉब्लम. यू कैन से दैट ऑफन representatives, once they are elected, they end up amassing significant assets which are disproportionate to their income. How do we get to know about this? Through affidavits which are filed by them while they are filing their nomination papers in the elections. So therefore what you can mention is that what is the problem of disproportionate assets? Explain the problem. This I am doing because I am not very sure of the second part of the question. Then what I will do is, once I have explained it, I would say that one may like to ask, or one may say that it amounts to an undue influence. अब आप undue influence भी explain कर दीजिएगा. What is undue influence? When I try to influence someone's behavior contrary to what they would have done through their own free will. अगर मैं किसी की फ्री विल को अपनी तरह से उनको मोल्ड करने की कोशिश करता हूं, आई ट्राई टू मेक देम थिंक और डू समथिंग विच दे वुड नॉट हैव डन देयर थ्रू देयर ओन फ्री विल, दैट इज व्हाट इज कॉल्ड एज एक्सरसाइजिंग अनड्यू इन्फ्लुएंस. सो ईदर यू एक्सप्लेन व्हाट इज अनड्यू इन्फ्लुएंस very briefly, or you tell that why exercising undue influence in elections should not be allowed as a practice. Clear? Now if you think of this logically, देखिए ये मेरे लिए एग्जाम हॉल के बाहर बैठ के बोलना बहुत आसान है, स्पेशली जब मैंने अब बेयर एक्ट पढ़ लिया और मुझे पता है कि दिस इज नॉट अ करप्ट इलेक्टोरल प्रैक्टिस, तो बहुत आसान है ये सब लॉजिक देना. Sitting there in the examination hall and writing the answer is a different ball game altogether, but still अगर हम इसको लॉजिकली सोचें तो, अगेन मैं ये रिवर्स इंजीनियरिंग कर रहा हूं तो इसलिए आसान है, बार बार बोल रहा हूं मैं. लॉजिकली अगर सोचे तो, इफ समवन इज हैविंग मोर मनी और लेस मनी, हाउ डज दैट मेक अ डिफरेंस टू द वोटर? हाउ डज दैट एक्सरसाइज अनड्यू इन्फ्लुएंस ऑन द वोटर? इट डजंट. If you know that some particular candidate is very rich, would you vote for him in the elections? Not necessarily. There is no correlation. So therefore, you cannot say that someone having disproportionate assets to their income would end up exercising undue influence on the elections, or therefore should be counted as a corrupt electoral practice. By the way, section 123 does not include this as a corrupt electoral practice. If you are having disproportionate assets to your income, it is actually a corrupt practice under Prevention of Corruption Act. It's a corrupt practice under Prevention of Corruption Act, which we discuss in ethics in governance, but not a corrupt electoral practice per se. But even if you had just written a bit about what is undue influence, or that how undue influence can end up affecting free and fair elections, and you would have mentioned that disproportionate assets do not necessarily lead to any undue influence, that would have been enough, even if you did not know specifically whether it is mentioned in the act or not. And then once you have mentioned that, तो आपने एक बार वो explain कर दिया that let's say disproportionate assets not a corrupt electoral practice, or disproportionate asset does not lead to undue influence, then you just conclude the answer. You can possibly conclude the answer by some suggestion on how we can improve the enforcement of this particular provision of the law. How can we can improve the enforcement of the provision of the law? You can possibly mention about either setting up fast track courts for this particular purpose, or special benches of the High Court should be given the powers to decide the cases related to corrupt electoral practices. Or you can mention that possibly there is a need to expand the definition of corrupt electoral practices to include a number of other issues as well, such as misuse of social media by a candidate or their representative contesting the elections. So that's the kind of conclusion that you may give in this kind of a question. Okay.